Hello, friends. Let's talk about the analytics interview. So, I think in this world right now, analytics and data science is such a buzzword in the market that everybody wants to enter into this space. And everybody wants to have the knowledge around analytics and data science. But if somebody is really prepared around the analytics or data science, or if somebody is really, eager to get into this particular space, one should need to understand what are the different areas one should actually read or learn. So here we'll talk about the different areas on which one should be actually prepared of, or will start preparing in case anybody really wants into this particular world of data science. So here are a few of the tips. Domain knowledge is one thing one should have. Statistics and probability knowledge. Linear programming and optimization. So there's a tool which is called Solver. That's kind of add-in which can be added into the MS Excel and then it can be used. Programming languages, which is there in the market, R, Python, or SAS. Data visualization tools like Tableau, Power BI, and ClickView. Apart from that, on top of it, one should also have big data concepts, cloud computing concepts, database and data warehouse knowledge, and basic SQL commands. So let's get into the deep understanding of each and every areas. So let's start with the domain knowledge. So domain is something on which the data is prepared, on which the data is actually belongs. So domain can be agriculture domain, it can be HR domain, it can be marketing domain, it can be sales domain, it can be finance domain, it can be banking domain. So domain is basically the area to which the data belongs, the department to which the data belongs. So if somebody is actually working on a project which is related to finance, so all the data on which he or she would be working as a part of the analytics project. So that data will have all the columns pertaining to the finance world. So uh, it can have columns net profit, gross profit, assets, different types of assets, different types of liabilities, then mathematical financial calculations and metrics. So all those things are available as a part of the data. And if somebody is working on a data analytics or analytics project or financial analytics project, that is called financial finance analytics, then he should be able to understand at a very high level, very holistic level, a very high architecture level, that how these data actually interconnect with each other, how these data actually talk with each other, and how the entire business actually revolves, how the entire business actually functions. So that is about the data domain knowledge. So if somebody is actually entering into an interview room, so the interviewer basically confirms that on which particular domain you have worked as an analytics project. So if somebody says that yes, I have already worked on a project which pertains to the finance industry or a banking industry, then they expect from the candidate that candidate will have at least basic understanding of different jargons, or the words which are used in the finance or banking domain. Like in the finance or banking domain, we should have knowledge about the credit card industry. We should have the understanding of the credit, the debit, the assets, the liabilities, what is income statement. So those kind of stuff, so one should have at least the knowledge of. If you are working on the HR side, if you are working on if you have actually dealt on the clients which belongs to the HR department, then you have actually worked on the HR data. So whatever analytics you have done as a part of your analytics project, that actually forms under the HR analytics domain, HR analytics domain. If you have actually worked on the pharma side, if you have worked on the pharma project, which is pharmaceuticals project or medical related project, then all the data which you have actually worked on as a part of your analytics project actually belongs to, so those the columns or the metrics, the calculations, whatever you have done, those data or columns are actually belonging to the pharma domain. And whatever the data you have worked on, that is called the medical data or the pharma data, pharmaceuticals. And the analytics is called pharma analytics, right? All the healthcare analytics. So healthcare analytics is one of the word which you would actually which you would be hearing, because healthcare is one of the area on which analytics is working on a very high level. So that is domain knowledge. So one should actually be prepared at a very high level. What are the different metrics, words, and jargons used in that particular functions or domains or verticals? Statistics and probability is another area. So one should have knowledge of different statistical concepts and probability concepts. Like if I talk about statistics, one should have understanding about the variance, the standard deviation, the regressions, then correlation, covariance concepts, then hypothesis testing, p-value, t-value, z-value. So all these concepts around the statistics, like sampling methodologies, samples, what is the population. So those kind of things one should be actually prepared of and should have knowledge on. And how these statistics and probability, like if I talk about the probability, then one should be actually be prepared around basic questions around like what is a sample space, what is a probability, what is a probability, what is conditional probability, what is additive and multiplicative side of the probability, when an additive rule is when when we apply the addition rule, when we apply the multiplication rule within the probability, and then there is a Bayes theorem concept, then there is a because Bayes theorem is a concept on which the naive Bayes algorithm in the machine learning is based. So these are the different concepts one should be actually prepared to answer the questions within an interview, right? Then linear programming and optimization, this is another area. So linear programming or non-linear programming is one of the steps on which the regressions, the linear regression or non-linear regression are actually based. So that is one thing where we actually get into the concept of global minima, global maxima, local minima, local maxima. So those things, right? Linear programming. And optimization, I would give you a very short example of what is optimization. Like you may have gone into, uh, uh, in a state like Karnataka, if you are traveling from one place to another, say from point A to point Z, you are traveling, and you actually get into your, the app, and the app says that in order to reach from point A to point Z, these are the three different routes available. One of the route is optimized in terms of the money, so it will cost you the lowest money. One of the route actually gives you the lowest time, so it is the shortest path, and you will be and that path is optimized in terms of the time. So these are the optimization techniques. So in order to reach from point A to point Z, there can be different ways and different routes you can actually pick. But which is the best route in terms of time, in terms of cost, in terms of time? So those are the optimization method. So there's a concept of constraints, there's an objective function, there's a constraints, and then you optimize the entire algorithm, and to attain that objective with a set of constraints. So that is called optimization. And you can use optimization if you really want to learn using Excel solver. So inside data you can see the solver, and then you can start working on that solver. So solver is readily available as an add-in in the Excel. Apart from this, of course, everybody would expect you to know at least one of these languages, which is called programming languages, and these are R, Python, or SAS. SAS is something which was in the market at least 5 or 6 or 7 years back, but now R and Python is now widely used within the market because of the exhaustive libraries and packages these two programming languages have, right? So R and Python, if you have both the languages, and then it is very good. If you have at least one of them, then also you are fine, and you can enter the interview room and go and crack the because R and Python is just the languages. You just need to understand how to converse and how to actually write those languages, but on top of it you should have the knowledge of the statistics and probability, and which statistical the formulas or functions, or which probability functions or formulas functions can be used where within the algorithms. That is more important within R and Python, right? On top of it, you should have knowledge on the data visualization tools like Tableau, Power BI, and ClickView. So Tableau is something which is now as a product of Salesforce. Power BI is an offering from Microsoft, and ClickView is from Click. So data visualization tools gives you a different of charts and graphs like heat maps, tree maps, scatter plots, then gauge maps, stacked bar charts. So different data visualization techniques are there, which can be easily attained using these Tableau, Power BI, or ClickView. Tableau and Power BI is more in the market right now. So if you are really an aspiring data scientist candidate, and if you are entering into an interview room, so the first 3 or 4 things which we have discussed, like domain knowledge, statistics and probability, programming languages, so those 3 or 4 things is a must. On top of it, if you have a very high level understanding of the data visualization tools, at least one of it, then it's a kind of bonus for the candidate, because it actually adds your value to the organization and you have more chances of getting selected. So data visualization tools, so there's a separate job of data visualization tools. So in the next slide, we would be talking about what are the different jobs in the market and what are different job profiles available in the market. But try to understand at this point of time that domain knowledge, statistics and probability, and programming languages. Right? If you have these two or three things, then you are more than enough for the analytics interview. Big data concepts. So big data concepts is something where you should have an understanding of how the entire Hadoop architecture actually works. Like you have HDFS, you have distributed computing, then you have Hive, then you have Impala, you have you have Pig, you have Yarn, you have HDFS. So how these entire thing, the entire architecture of the big data interacts with each other, where the data is stored, in what format the data is stored, who does what, at least you should have understanding of that particular area, right? I'm not asking that you start going go deep into the big data and become a big data engineer, but just because you are aspiring data scientist, you should have at least an overview of what is big data and what are the different terminologies which are being used in the big data. So that is expected out of a data scientist candidate, of course, because you would be interacting with the person who is giving you data, who is storing the data in who is storing the entire unstructured data or structured data. So you would be interacting with those people, those teams as well. So in order to interact with those people and those teams, you should have understanding of the things which they actually do. Because when they will start talking about big data and those different terms, like we are working on the HDFS, the HDFS, the performance of the HDFS has gone down. So these are the partitions on which we are working. Then you should be able to actually relate to those terms. So and that is why the big data concepts is a must. Cloud computing concepts is another area where the market is moving, and it's a boom in the market right now. One of the two of the major offerings are from Amazon AWS, which is Amazon Web Services, and MS Azure, which is Microsoft Azure. So you should have an idea, basic concept and basic idea around cloud computing concepts as well. Database and data warehouse knowledge is a must, and basic SQL commands is a must. Database and data warehouse knowledge. So understand in this way that database is a traditional relational RDBMS system where we have Oracle, Teradata, and it is a normalized database, normalized architecture where you have too much of different tables in a big network, interconnected with each other. They have a relation of one, many to many, you know. So and then these tables are interconnected with each other with different types of joins, and it is in a 3NF or BCNF or third normal form or boycott normal form in a very normalized form. So that is relational and conventional database. And then there comes a concept of data warehouse, which is a denormalized database, and it is a summarized and aggregated data, right? So database is basically the lowest level of data and a transactional level of data, a detailed level of data, whereas data warehouse is at a higher level where we have aggregated the data and summarized the data and prepared a data warehouse in different data form of data marts, right? So you should have knowledge around the database and data warehouse. Like in the data warehouse you have concepts of star schema, snowflake schema, measures, dimensions. So how the entire data warehouse works, like data marts is there. So you should have that knowledge, why the database is there, what is a data warehouse, what is the difference between a database and data warehouse. So this is the basic thing, because unless and until you do not have any data stored somewhere, you wouldn't be working on the algorithms or data cleaning exercises or EDA part, right? So you should have that understanding of the database and data warehouse as well. And how to interact with this database and data warehouse, there comes the SQL commands, which is structured query language commands. So SQL, we have different commands like DDL commands, DML commands, DCL commands. Like we have data manipulation commands, data control language commands. We have data definition language commands. Like we have select, insert, update, modify, truncate, delete. Then we have different types of triggers, procedures. So you should have knowledge around the indexes. What is an index? What is a view? What are the materialized view? What are non-materialized views? Then you should have knowledge around different types of joins, like what is an equi join, self join, right outer join, left outer join, inner join, cross join. So the basic things on which you should have an idea of. So this is pretty much on the analytics interview. Yes, there is one more thing which I haven't included here, because that is machine learning algorithms, right? So that actually is part of R, Python, and statistics and probability, right? So those are the things which you should have actually be prepared of while you are entering into a room for an analytics interview. So let's also cover what are the different roles in the market prevalent in the market, and what do they expect out of you. So here I have tried to actually bring forth the different types of roles. If you go into the Naukri.com or any job portals, you would see that somebody is stating it as a data scientist role availability within in the company. Some organizations is asking for data analyst roles. Somebody have the positions available or positions vacant for business analyst, somebody for data engineer and big data engineers. So let's try to understand what are the different roles in demand in industry and what is exactly they are looking for, because people do get confused by looking at different words, because so many times we are seeing that data scientist, again the data word is being used, data analyst, again the data word is being used. How data scientist is differ from a different from a data analyst, how a data engineer is different from a data analyst or per se data scientist. So we need to understand that, right? So let's understand data scientist. Say data scientist is somebody who has all the knowledge, deep knowledge on statistics, probability, machine learning algorithms, deep learning, optimization, and on top of it, yes, that data scientists also have knowledge on some of the visualization tools at a very high level, big data concepts he has knowledge on, and he also understands how the SQL or the database actually performs, or the move. So data scientist somebody who has knowledge on each and every areas, like statistics, probability, SQL, machine learning algorithms, deep learning optimization, cloud computing concepts, big data overview, then Tableau or Power BI overview. So these are the basic things on data scientist. If you are going in an interview for a data analyst role, so you can say that data analyst is a first step towards the data scientist, or you can say that junior data scientist can be called as a data analyst. That's how we can define as a data analyst. So data analyst is somebody who does the initial stuff, like he does the descriptive analytics or descriptive statistics part is the responsibility of data analyst. He works on the Tableau or Power BI, or maybe the code side also. He is just visualizing the data and analyzing the data. And on top of it, he has good knowledge on the SQL, database, Excel, pivot table, Tableau, Power BI. So everything which is done apart from the machine learning algorithm part, when you start using those algorithms, when you start building those models, when you start using the statistics and probability in a very detailed manner, then a data scientist role comes into play. Before that, when you are actually working on the data analysis side, which is the more of the descriptive side and not the prescriptive or predictive side, you know so that is the role of a data analyst. And maybe so what an interviewer expects from a data analyst is that a data analyst should have a very good knowledge on the SQL database and visualization, and they expect that they should have a very hands-on on Tableau and Power BI. Right. Business analyst is a very older term, wherein somebody from an MBA background do the requirements gathering, and he's actually a bridge between the technology and business, because he is actually from an MBA background. He understands the business jargons, so he sits with the business, he takes their requirements and he changes into the technical document and passes to the engineering department or the technology department, and then the technology department starts working on the development or the design side. So business analyst is acts as a layer or a mediator between the business and the technology, right? Data engineer. Data engineer is a role which is used in some of the organizations, data engineer is somebody who is actually working on the machine learning part, algorithms, and the deep learning part. And in some of the organizations, data engineer is somebody who is very conversant with the big data, and he's actually working on the big data and Hadoop side. And if I talk about if he's somebody working on the big data side, then he is actually conversant with Spark language, Spark or Scala languages, right? So that is data engineer. And in some of the organizations, you would see that data engineer is somebody who is actually working on the coding side, Python coding and machine learning algorithms coding, right? Big data engineer is a different role altogether, where somebody expects you to have a very superficial knowledge on the machine learning part, a very detailed and core knowledge on the big data Hadoop architecture and languages such as Spark Core, Spark, Scala, Hive, Pig, Yarn, distributed computing. So it is more of big data and Hadoop, less of machine learning algorithms. I hope I have tried to actually give you a more clear picture of different types of roles which is there in the industry in demand, and what do we actually expect if we are actually aspiring for a data scientist role or a data analyst, or say a data engineer or big data engineer role. I have tried to cover as much as I have, tried to cover as much as I can, and hope you may have liked this particular video. In case you have any other questions, just let me know in the comment section, and then I will try to answer your queries. And please do try to subscribe my channel. I will be posting more videos in the future which will help all the analytics and data scientist as data science aspirants who wants to get into this particular space or industry. Thank you.